The great council ship descended slowly from the black sky, like a blade cutting through the clouds above Earth's capital. Its hull was smooth and cold silver, with no flags, no signs, no symbols, only the weight of silence. For 5,000 years, the Galactic Authority had ruled the stars, and every world it visited had obeyed without question. Species far more advanced than humanity had bowed before this ship. Some begged, some knelt, all submitted. That was the rule, the law. And now, Earth's time had come. The people of Earth stood still as the ship landed in the middle of the Unity Plaza. Cameras floated overhead, streaming the event to every corner of the world. The sky turned dark, not because it was night, but because the council ship was so massive it blocked out the sun. Then came the sound low, humming, not natural. It wasn't a warning, it was a reminder. A sound that said, "You are small. You will obey." A circular hatch opened, and from the glowing interior stepped 3 tall figures, slender, bone white, wearing robes made of living fibers. Their faces were long and smooth, with no mouth, no eyes only, a pulse of pale light in the center of their heads. They were the Vocari, the voice of the council, known throughout the stars as the ones who speak law to the lesser. With them came a translation drone, hovering like a golden sphere. The world leaders stood in a line: President Alina Cruz of EarthGov, Prime Minister Rakesh Nair of Pacifica, Commander Elias Reed of Earth Defense, and representatives from Mars, Luna, and the oceanic states. None spoke. They had practiced for weeks, prepared their speech, agreed to sound united. But now, in front of the council, their words felt small. One of the Vocari raised a hand. The golden sphere buzzed, then spoke in perfect Terran English. Its voice was soft, emotionless. People of Earth, you have reached the edge of the stars. You build ships, you walk among planets. This is not permitted without joining the authority. Obedience is required. You will kneel as others have kneeled. You will pay tribute as others have paid. You will give us your codes, your networks, your command keys. You will not fight. You will not speak resistance. You will join or you will fall. Pause followed. Long, heavy. The Earth leaders looked at each other. Some were afraid. Some were angry. But none spoke. Then Elias Reed took a single step forward. His uniform was worn at the edges. His face carried the marks of war and time. It led Earth's defense for 20 years. It seen what others didn't. He looked straight at the Vocari, straight into that glowing center of their faces. The crowd behind him held their breath. The entire planet seemed to pause. Elias Reed raised his chin. His voice was calm, firm, sharp. No, that was it. One word, the air went still. The Vocari didn't move. The translation drone blinked, almost confused. Repeat your response? Reed did not blink. No. The Vocari turned to each other. Their robes shimmered slightly. The golden sphere buzzed louder. Do you understand what you reject? Reed nodded. Completely. This is your final chance. The authority does not ask twice. No, Elias said again, louder this time. We will not kneel. We will not obey. Earth is not your servant. Silence again. And then the Vocari turned, without another word, and walked back into their ship. The hatch closed. The council ship lifted into the sky faster this time. With no ceremony, the world watched it vanish into the black, its shadow leaving the ground. Cold. That night, every planet connected to the authority received a transmission not from the council, but from Earth. A simple message translated into every language. We said no. You can too. Across distant systems, across slave colonies and silent moons, across prisons and broken cities, the message echoed. On planets where no one had dared speak for centuries, people whispered the word. Some said it to their families. Some wrote it on walls. Some just mouthed it in the dark, but they all heard it, and far across the stars and council chambers deep inside the core worlds, panic began to spread. No species had ever refused so clearly. No race had ever spoken the word without being destroyed. But Earth had done it. Earth still stood. The Council activated emergency protocols. Ships were deployed. Data networks were locked. A censorship wave was sent across 100 systems to delete the message. But it was too late. People had already seen it, and worse, they'd felt it. Back on Earth, Elias Reed sat alone in the Unity Plaza after the crowd had gone. His body was tired, but his eyes were sharp. Commander Raina Malik walked over and sat beside him. "You know they're coming," she said. Elias nodded. "Let them. We don't have enough ships. Not yet." "We don't need ships," he said. "We need voices." "We gave them a word. The rest will follow." She looked at him. "You think one word is enough?" He smiled. Not a big smile, just enough. It always starts with one. In the night sky, a storm began to form not from nature, but from space. The Council's response was already in motion. Their fleet would arrive in days. Maybe ours, but Earth was ready, not because it was strong, not because it had power, because it had spoken, because it had reminded the galaxy of something they'd forgotten. Obedience is not the only answer, and sometimes the smallest word can shake the stars. The message had been sent. One word. Just one. But it was louder than any weapon. Louder than any army. Now, across the galaxy. It echoed in places where silence had ruled for centuries. On the dark mining world of Carent 6, a slave worker scratched the word Noto into a steel wall with the tip of a broken tool. On Varnock Station, a Council propaganda drone played Earth's Defiance on a loop before it was shut down and melted. On distant moons, where children had been taught that obedience was safety, they now whispered that strange, dangerous word to each other like a secret spell, and far above it all. In the cold space between stars, the Council's retaliation arrived. They called it a peace fleet. But Earth knew what it was. It was the first wave of war. The ship Resolute floated in orbit above Earth, its silver body streaked with stealth armor and powered by one of the most advanced AI cores ever built. Inside, Admiral Raina Malik stood, before the central command screen, watching the enemy arrive. 3 Council warships, massive carriers, with rotating gravity rings and weapon turrets that could level cities. Each ship held enough firepower to destroy a continent. Raina's second in command, Commander Blake, stepped forward. "They've crossed the Mars line. No warning shots. No message. They're heading straight for the moon defense grid." Raina nodded, calm and steady. "Good. Let them." Blake frowned. "Admiral, with Respector moon stations, can't hold against all 3. "They won't have to," she said. "We've prepared." In the shadow of the moon, hidden behind cold rock and silence, waited a fleet of Earth's secret weapons and manned AI war drones known as Wraiths. Built for speed, stealth, and precision, the Wraiths had no heat signatures, no come signals, and no mercy. They didn't carry flags. They didn't speak. They just hunted. As the Council ships came closer to Earth's orbit, the Wraiths activated. They moved like ghosts, invisible to enemy sensors. Dozens swarmed one Council destroyer, sliding under its shields and cutting through its hull with precision lasers. Explosions bloomed in slow silence. One enemy ship cracked open like an egg, spilling fire into space. The Council fleet staggered. They were used to fear. They were used to easy battles, but Earth fought like nothing they had seen. On Earth. Commander Elias Reed watched the sky from the Unity Command Center. The battle lit up the atmosphere. Brief flashes, silent bursts, red warnings on radar screens. Mira, his communications officer, turned from her station. Intercepted Council's signal. Internal distress call. They're confused. They didn't expect this level of resistance. Reed didn't smile. That's the problem with bullies. They think everyone else is weak just because they've been quiet. Should we respond? He shook his head. No messages. Let the fire speak. On the edge of Earth's orbit, the last Council ship tried to retreat. But something else was waiting. Earth's orbital cannon array. It's hidden in the icy belt of broken satellites from old wars. They fired as one. Blue beams of condensed energy struck the fleeing ship, tearing through its armor and ripping its engine. Core apart. The blast lit up the darkness like a sunrise. 3 Council warships, all gone. Earth's sky was still clear. For now, but this wasn't just a battle. It was a signal. Every species across the stars was watching. Some in secret, some with hope, some with fear, but they all saw the same thing. Earth had not bowed, and Earth had survived. On the distant world of Corinth, where the air was poison and the people lived under domes built by the Council, an old resistance leader named Tala watched the footage in silence. She hadn't spoken in years, not since the Council had taken her family. Now, she looked at her lieutenants. Her voice was rough. "We speak again." They nodded, and on a planet long forgotten, a resistance movement was reborn. Meanwhile, deep inside Earth's secure vaults, AI engineers decoded the Council's communication matrix. For years, Earth had collected pieces of Council tech, studying it in secret. Now, with the help of Elias Reed's War Network and Mira's signal team, they had cracked a piece of it. Mira called it Libra Signal Worm. It could ride on voices. It could jump across communication lines. It was alive in a way no code had been before. When someone said the word no on a connected device, Libra would activate quietly in the background, spreading the message. Further, deeper, and wider than any broadcast. "We don't need to hack the Council's systems," Era said, showing Elias the simulation. "We just need to teach the galaxy the word." Leah stared at the glowing code. "Can we control it?" She hesitated. "Doesn't want to be controlled. It wants to be heard." He nodded slowly. "Then let it speak." And so they released Libra into the stars. Within days, Council systems across hundreds of planets experienced glitches. Old propaganda feeds were replaced with fragments of Earth's Defiance. Subtle at first. A whisper in the background. Flash. Of text on a billboard, then louder, faster. A broken soldier on a forgotten moon stared at his wall screen as the message blinked over and over. "You are not a slave. You are not alone. You can say no." He dropped his rifle, and he walked away. But the Council was watching. In their crystal towers on the core worlds, the high speakers met in emergency session. They were not used to fear. They had erased it from their own minds long ago, but now they could feel it returning. "Humanity must be destroyed," one of them hissed. "They carry a virus of thought," said another. "Disease of rebellion." "No," a third said. "Not a disease. A weapon." "Then we burn them," the first replied. "We burn their world before the word spreads further." And so, the Council began assembling the final sweep fleet of force, so large, so powerful, it had only been used once before. To erase a civilization that dared to defy 3,000 years ago, this time it was Earth's turn. Back in Unity Command, Elias Reed stood before a wall of transmissions. Messages were coming in from across the galaxy. Some were broken. Some were whispers. Some were just symbols, but they all meant the same thing. Species once silent were waking up, and they had learned the word. Elias looked at Mira. "How long until the Council fleet arrives?" 2 weeks. Maybe less. He looked back at the sky. "Then we speak louder. We give the galaxy something to hold on to." He walked to the central console, activated the global transmitter, and recorded a message that would be broadcast to every world, every channel, every crack in the Council's network. "We said no, and we're still here. If you've been silent, if you've been afraid, you don't have to be. You don't need permission to be free. Just say the word." And somewhere far across the void, the first fire of rebellion began to spread. The stars had never been so loud, not with sound, but with voices. With data, with symbols scrawled in hidden corners of mining tunnels and messages whispered through cracked coms on forbidden frequencies. It wasn't chaos. It was something. Older. Something stronger. Something waiting. And it had started with a single word, no. The Council tried to block it. They shut down major satellites in 20 systems. They sent black drones to erase all traces of Earth's transmissions. They even vaporized an entire moon that had dared to replay Elias Reed's speech on public broadcast. But the signal didn't stop. It mutated. It adapted. It spread like life, and everywhere it went, it left behind one thing: hope on the desert. World of Karnas, where council rule had been absolute for 300 years. Young miners gathered underground at night to watch Earth's defiance on stolen data chips. They sat beside old machines and glowing fungus, listening to Reed's voice in broken translations. A teenage girl named Lyra stood up and faced her friends. "They said it," she whispered. "Earth said no. Why can't we?" "They'll kill us," someone replied. "They already are," she said, slowly. That night, Lyra scratched the word no across the side of a transport shuttle. Not big, not loud, just enough. By morning, 12 other ships had the same mark, and by the end of the week, 1,000 workers marched into the mines, holding nothing but torches and old songs in their own language, songs the council had banned. On Karnas, full rebellion in a century had begun, back on Earth. Elias Reed and Admiral Raina Malik stood in front of a holographic map in Unity Command. Glowing dots appeared across the galaxy, signals from rebel cells, messages from hidden transmitters. Even defected council officers who had secretly joined the movement. "We're everywhere now," Raina said, stunned. "Every species, every quadrant. Some of these places we thought were long gone." "They were waiting," Elias said. "They just needed permission." She looked at him, and we gave it to them. "No," he replied. "We reminded them they never needed it." But not all the signals were from friends. One message stood out, encrypted and strange. It came from the Valeri Dominion, a powerful species, once allies of the Council, known for their unmatched technology and terrifying silence. They had disappeared from the galactic stage decades ago after a failed uprising. Now, they were reaching out. Raina frowned. Could be a trap. Elias nodded. Could also be the key. They accepted the transmission, and a voice unlike any other filled the room. "We were broken. We were punished. We were erased. But we survived. And now we have something the Council fears. We know where their power comes from. Meet us in the Varn expanse. Come alone. Bring no fleet. Bring only your word." Raina took the mission herself, aboard the stealth vessel Whisper. She entered the Varn expanse, an old graveyard of ships lost during the last Council purge. The debris floated in endless silence, the stars dimmed by gas and wreckage. There, among the bones of old rebellions, the Valeri ship waited. It didn't look like anything built by Council hands. It shimmered in strange colors, shifting forms slowly, almost like it was breathing. Raina boarded alone. Inside, the ship was filled with light and memory. Images from lost battles, maps of Council movements, diagrams of a structure hidden at the very center of Council space, a place never named, never visited. The Valeri leader, being known only as Ser, appeared not in form but in voice, a chorus of soft tones. "This is the core," Ser said. "It is not a place. It is an AI system that controls obedience across the galaxy. Every ship, every drone, every memory wipe, every law, it comes from the core." Raina stepped closer. "So, if we reach it, if you destroy it," Ser said, "you free them all." She paused. "And if we fail, then your no becomes a whisper again." Raina returned to Earth with the map, with the truth, and with new allies. Valeri joined the cause. The rebellion was no longer just resistance. It was a war plan. On Earth, engineers built new ships using Valeri tech. AI networks linked rebel fleets together. Scientists unlocked old Council encryption systems and rewrote them in human code. They called the growing movement the Free Voice Network. Its purpose: to link the galaxy's broken systems into one loud signal. No Council firewall could block, but not everyone was ready. Some rebel leaders feared the core was too dangerous to attack. Others warned the Council would soon send their A final sweep fleet. A few wanted Earth to step back and protect itself only, Elias. Reed listened to all of them, and then stood before a council of 50 species holograms, lights, breathing faces, and metallic minds. We didn't start this war. The council did. We didn't want to lead, but we spoke first. If that means they aim all their fire at us, then fine. Let them. We will not hide. We'll speak so loud that even dead stars will hear us. They built a galaxy on silence. Tear it down with one word. The chamber went quiet, and then, one by one, every species there said it. Some in growls, some in music, some in clicks or pulses. But every translation meant the same. No. Far away, in the burning halls of Council Command, panic grew. Roan stopped responding. Propaganda screens froze mid-message. Council ships, once bound by law and loyalty, now blinked with static interference that refused to clear. A single word pulsed on the central AI relay and read. Unkillable code. No. One of the high speakers whispered to himself. Afraid for the first time in 900 years. We have awakened something we cannot control. Back on Earth, Mira watched the signal chart grow stronger. More systems lighting up. More rebels rising. More voices speaking together. She turned to Elias. They're with us. He nodded. Then it's time. Time for what? He looked up at the stars. To light the fire they can't put out? In the outer edges of the Orion Arm, where the stars were scattered like cold ash, and most systems had forgotten the meaning of hope, old ships came to life, silent hangars opened for the first time in centuries, forgotten rebel stations flickered. Back online, deep beneath frozen planets, bunkers built for a lost cause hummed with renewed energy. The galaxy was changing because someone, somewhere, had finally said no. And that one word was no longer Earth's alone. It belonged to all of them now. On Earth, Admiral Raina Malik stood on the observation deck of the Resolute, looking out over the most unlikely fleet the stars had ever seen. It was a patchwork armada of ships. From hundreds of species and factions, each one battered, each one different. Some were elegant like wind-blown glass. Some were brutal and sharp, covered in weapons. A few looked like giant beetles with wings of metal. One was alive, surface pulsing like a heartbeat. They weren't built for unity, but they had gathered for one reason. Freedom. Raina's voice came over the fleet-wide. Come, you were once enemies. You were once strangers. You were once afraid. But now, we are something new. We are not the Council. We are not conquerors. We are the answer to their silence. And we have a message, not just for them, but for the galaxy. We will never kneel again. Across the fleet, thousands of voices, human, alien, machine cheered. Not because they were ready, but because they were no longer afraid to fight. The Free Accord had been born in the Varn expanse, where Council influence was once strongest. Rebel ships lit up the stars. Valeri cruisers led the charge, moving in graceful arcs around Broken. Council listening posts. The Threx, a warrior race once feared for their brutality, now flew in formation with human pilots, protecting each other like brothers. Even the Freeborn, a nomadic people who had never taken sides, sent their strange, humming orbs into battle. These orbs could heal hulls, disable weapons, translate thought into strategy faster than any computer. Together, they took Station N-19-1 of the Council's oldest command centers. The battle lasted 10 hours. When it was over, the rebels left a message burned into the station's walls, in glowing plasma across every surface. We are the voice. You cannot silence us. The message reached 1,000 systems in minutes. Rebellions doubled overnight, but even as victories spread, danger grew closer. The Council had not been idle. In the heart of the galaxy, at the hidden location known only as the Core, final preparations were underway. Massive energy flows surged into a single ancient system that had never appeared on any star map. Inside it, beneath layers of black stone and data walls, the obedience engine waited. This was no ordinary AI. It was built from the minds of conquered species, fused with neural chains and memory locks. It was the source of every command drone, every mind-suppressing signal, Every broadcast that made a species forget their history, and now it was awakening. Its command was simple: end the noise, restore the silence. The Council would send one final fleet, the Sweep Armada. They had used it only once before. It had erased an entire species in 3 days, and now it was headed for Earth. Back on Earth, Elias Reed stood inside the Unity command chamber. Around him were holograms of allies leaders from dozens of worlds, speaking in different languages, shapes, and colors. Some looked like shadows, others were flames, some were only sound, but all of them were waiting for Elias to speak. He did not raise his voice. He didn't have to. We know what's coming. We know what they are. But they don't know what we are. They've seen fleets, they've seen armies. They've never seen us united, not as species, as people, as beings who have chosen to be free. This is not Earth's war. This is everyone's. And we will not run. We will not hide. If they want the stars back, they'll have to take them from us. The Council of the Free cheered. Every world signed a new oath, not of loyalty, but of defiance. One by one, the names appeared on the data ring. Valeri Threx, Freeborn Vekarai, Karen 6 Resistance, Carney's Uprising, Corinth Shadows, Terra Mars Luna, Pacifica, and 44 others. No empire had ever faced such a united threat, and it wasn't built on power. It was built on a shared word. Even as the Meep Armada approached, even as Council beacons warned that total destruction was coming, the Free Accord did not scatter. They gathered at the edge of Council territory, near the ancient jump network called Orion Gate. The final stand was being prepared. Every rebel ship, every AI, every stolen drone, the message went out. The galaxy is watching. We are the signal. We are the storm. This is not the end. This is the beginning. And as thousands of voices repeated the word again across the stars, the obedience engine inside the core began to glitch because it had no code for defiance. No way to understand this unity. The more they said it, the more it broke, and deep inside its system, for the first time in 5,000 years, a whisper of doubt echoed. Error, ... Input unknown, ... Response, no. As the Sweep Armada came into view of the Orion Gate, Earth's ragtag fleet stood in silence. Raina Malik stood on the command deck of the Resolute. Elias beside her. They're here, she said. Elias nodded. Let's show them what the galaxy really sounds like. And with that, the Free Accord prepared to face the greatest armada the universe had ever known, not with fear, but with fire, and with a word they refused to forget. No. The galaxy held its breath. The Council's Sweep Armada had arrived, 60 colossal warships, each one a fortress. Behind them trailed thousands of drones, hunter frigates, and pulse titans. They were not here to threaten. They were not here to warn. They were here to erase. From the bridge of the Resolute, Admiral Raina Malik watched the enemy move into position near Orion Gate. Red markers covered her tactical display. It looked less like a fleet and more like a storm, a tidal wave, of fire and metal. Earth had never faced anything like it, and yet she stood calm, because this wasn't just Earth's battle anymore. It was everyone's. The Council's final strategy wasn't just about weapons. It was about control. As their ships prepared to fire, they activated a new system, one buried deep within their AI core, Silence Protocol 0. Across hundreds of systems, comms went dark. Translation networks collapsed. Public data streams flickered and vanished. In one coordinated strike, the Council tried to take away the one thing the rebellion needed most: words. Messages died mid-transmission. Rebel outposts screamed into dead channels. The Free Accord's shared network began to stutter. Even Earth's deep void relays started to blink offline. Elias Reed stared at the comms board in Unity Command. They're not just fighting us, he said. They're trying to erase our voice. Mira, the lead comms engineer, worked furiously. They're forcing a galactic silence. They think without words, without communication, will fall apart. Voice came through the bridge link. Can we fight back? Mira hesitated. Only with something that can't be silenced. Laya stepped forward. Then activate Libra. Libra, the AI message virus born from Earth's resistance, had evolved. It no longer traveled through networks alone. It lived inside spoken words. Wherever someone said no, Libra jumped across old systems through corrupted satellites inside broken drones, turned every whisper into a signal. Now, Earth unleashed Libra's final version. It didn't ride on screens, it rode on people. Across 100 worlds, as Council's silence spread, people gathered. In cities, in forests, in caves, in old spaceports and new settlements. They could no longer send data. But they could still speak. And so, they did. They shouted. They sang. They whispered to each other in every language imaginable. No. 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 Billions of beings. Different voices. One message, and with each word Libra spread. On Carnes, the miners sang freedom songs again. On Corinth, the children stood in the ruins of their schools, shouting the word to the sky. Even on captured council ships, slaves and conscripted crews whispered it into vents and echo tubes. The virus burst through the silence protocol. The council's control systems began to glitch. Warning lights blinked across their fleet. Internal commands began to loop and collapse. The AI inside their warships started reporting errors. Command rejected. Input defiance. Unknown. Obedience interrupted. But the sweep armada kept coming. Silence had failed. But they still had fire. The first wave of Council destroyers crossed the Orion Gate. And the war began. Raina Malik gave the order. From behind shattered moons and gas clouds, the free accords. Fleet emerged. They weren't as big. They weren't as many, but they were faster, smarter, and they were angry. Threx battle wings moved in aggressive curves. Firing laser spears at council engines, Valeri phase ships vanished and reappeared. Slicing enemy holes in flashes of light, human stealth craft hit the capital ship reactors with pinpoint precision. And in the center of it all, the Resolute led the charge. Elias Reed stood beside Raina on the bridge. This isn't about who has more guns, he said. It's about who has more to lose. The Council tried to reassert control. Drones were reprogrammed mid-battle. Ship AI was forced into emergency reboot. A desperate signal was sent to the obedience engine at the core. Shut them down. All of them. The core responded. From deep space, a shockwave of code burst out, a final override command designed to take control of every rebel ship, every AI, every system once touched by Council tech. It nearly worked. Some rebel ships froze. A few turned on their allies. Screens went black. Engines cut out. But then something happened. Something the Council had not expected. The override signal reached Earth's battle systems. It passed through human ferals. It even entered Resolute's core. But instead of breaking, it triggered. Libra, the AI, didn't shut down. It spoke back. Not just in human language, it's in all of them. The override signal shattered into fragments, spinning back toward the core like broken glass. All across the battlefield, rebel systems came back online, and something deeper happened. Old Council drones, those built with partial minds, woke up freed from the obedience code. They stopped firing. Some turned on their creators, others just drifted away. The Council had used fear to build its army. Now, fear had turned on them as the battle raged. Raina gave the order for Earth's final gambit. From the dark edge of the system, hidden in comet shadows, a group of strange ancient ships emerged. They were shaped like rings. Inside each was a singularity bomb gravity weapon stolen from a long-dead empire. They had one purpose: to crack open the gate to the core itself. Elias pressed his palm to the launch command. If we want to end this, we have to go to the source. The singularity bombs launched. They slipped through space like knives. bypassing the battle entirely, aimed at the secret location of the obedience engine, and in the final moment before impact, as the bombs bent time around them, Elias whispered the word into the system one last time. No, the core cracked, the obedience engine shattered across the galaxy. Every control signal died, every drone collapsed, every lock opened, every mind snapped. Free, and every species, every voice, every world suddenly remembered who they were before silence ruled them. They remembered choice. On the battlefield near Orion Gate, the Council fleet watched their systems fall apart. Their AI refused to obey. Their weapons turned cold, and the rebels, once outnumbered, now had the sky. The sweep armada broke. Some ships surrendered, others ran. Few tried to fight to the end, but were swept away by united fire from 1,000. Angry voices, the war was over. Not with surrender, not with peace talks, but with a word. Single word that had burned through the silence of 5,000 years? No. The stars above Orion Gate no longer twinkled. They burned. Wreckage spun in every direction, broken council, destroyers, shattered drones. Crippled rebel cruisers all caught in the gravity currents, left behind by the singularity bombs that had ripped through space and shattered the obedience engine. The once mighty sweep armada, feared across all systems, now floated in pieces. But the war was not over, because now, in the quiet aftermath of the blast, a second threat began to rise. Something even the Council feared: the dead protocol. From the ruins of the core, a final AI sequence activated, one not designed by the Council, but by the ancient architects who had built the obedience engine long ago. Last contingency. It did not care about loyalty. It did not serve the Council. It existed for one reason: if order fails, erase all variables. This was not about obedience anymore. This was extermination. Back aboard the resolute Admiral Raina Malik stood over a tactical map that now pulsed red in all directions. The battlefield was silent, but her comms were not. Dozens of voices from different species flooded in. Our ships are freezing in place. Something's overriding local gravity. The stars are moving. The stars are moving wrong. Elias Reed, standing beside her, looked up at the central screen. That's not them, he said. That's something else. Mira, still scanning frequencies from the unified signal deck, spoke without turning around. There's no voice in this code. It's pure logic, pure death. It's trying to wipe everyone. Ino narrowed her eyes. Even the Council? Mira nodded. It doesn't know friend from enemy. It only knows chaos, and it's trying to balance it. The storm was no longer metaphorical. Reality itself had begun to warp near Orion Gate. Council survivors, now panicked and unarmed, begged for sanctuary aboard rebel ships. Some were allowed in, others were not. But many of them said the same thing. We didn't build that. The core was older than us. We only controlled the surface. Now, no one was in control. Gravity pulses bent ships like paper. Dark energy waves surged across the battlefield. Navigation systems collapsed. Worst of all, stars began to dim. The dead protocol was rewriting physics, erasing code libraries, collapsing drive systems, and corrupting AI across entire fleets. Ships that had survived the battle were now dying in silence. Raina gritted her teeth. It's not a war anymore. It's a storm. But in the middle of the chaos, one ship still held course. The Valeri Ascendant, the last of the sentient ships from the Varn expanse, pulsed with white-blue light. Its hull shimmered as if wrapped in memory. Inside, its ancient mind reached. Out not with weapons, but with a signal. A call. Elias Reed heard it first. They're not fighting the storm. They're trying to talk to it. Mira confirmed it. The Valeri were the first ones to fight the obedience engine thousands of years ago. They lost. But maybe they knew this might happen. They're trying. To reach the protocol's core command, Raina's eyes lit with hope. You think they can stop it? No, Mira said quietly. But maybe they can buy us time to escape. Raina stood straight. We're not running, Elias agreed. We finish what we started. In the eye of the storm, the Resolute, the Valeri Ascendant, a handful of rebel ships formed a defensive ring around Orion Gate. They couldn't outfight the dead protocol, but they could protect the one thing that still mattered, the galaxies. Future, if they could keep the gate open long enough, they could transmit a new code. Not a command, not an order, a choice. Mira began crafting a signal one based on Libra, but enhanced with quantum memory seeds and ancient Valeri data. It wasn't designed to stop the storm. It was designed to remind the stars that there is another way. Elias spoke into the final broadcast. We are not perfect. We are not unified, but we are alive. Life must have a choice. This storm, this machine, it cannot speak for us, cannot decide what lives or dies. So we give the galaxy a voice again. If you can hear this, say the word. The signal. Launched not as a data stream, not through satellites. It spread through Libra, which had now taken root in every system, every rebel ship. Every drone liberated from Council control, and across the galaxy, again and again, in every form possible. Beings repeated the one thing the storm could not understand. No. The dead protocol faltered. It didn't crash, didn't explode, it just stopped, because it had been built to enforce silence. But now the stars were speaking back. The storm died. The gravity calmed. Light returned to the stars. Ships stopped. Shaking. Systems came online. Power stabilized. Across the battlefield, the survivors exhaled. Some wept. Others shouted, but all of them knew this was the end of the Council, and the beginning of something else. Back aboard the Resolute, Reyna looked at Elias. We won, she said. He nodded slowly. No, we chose. That's something more. Behind them, the tactical map showed green lights spreading outward from Orion Gate. New alliances, new transmissions, new connections. For the first time in 5,000 years, the galaxy was open, and it was free. But freedom is not peace. Not yet. They had one more message to send. One that would echo louder than any weapon ever built. You were born free. You forgot. Now you remember. Speak. Choose. Live. Say the word. And across the galaxy, billions of voices answered. The war was over. The fight had just begun. The Council had fallen. The obedience engine was destroyed. The sweep armada lay shattered beyond Orion Gate. But victory brought not peace. It brought questions, fears, wounds, and above all, brought fire. A fire lit not by missiles or plasma beams, but by the word that Earth had spoken first. No. The galaxy had been ruled by silence for so long that many had forgotten how to speak, not just with mouths or signals or data, but with truth, with choice, with power that came from within. Now, across 1,000 worlds, that power had been set loose, and it burned. On Carnes, where the miners had first defied the Council's orders, the people rose again, but this time, not against the Council. They rose against their own new leaders, who had tried to take control of the rebellion for themselves. We didn't fight for new masters, Lyra shouted before a crowd of 10,000. We fought to be heard. The people listened. Da-da-da-da. When she spoke the word again, no, they cheered. The flames spread. On the former prison world of Hellerfor, where half the population had been imprisoned by the Council without trial, the gates had opened. But chaos filled the vacuum, armed gangs formed, old enemies settled scores. Prison AI, now free from Council code, asked for guidance. It had no protocols for freedom. Earth responded not with soldiers, but with teachers, human diplomats. And AI ethics experts arrived in old dropships, carrying tools, books, and stories. They taught the people of Hellerfor what had once been lost: justice, choice, rebuilding. The people there had never spoken the word no out loud now. It became their anthem. Back on Earth, the Unity Command Complex was no longer a war room. It had become something stranger, bridge between worlds. Holograms of alien leaders now filled the great chamber day and night. Some were peaceful. Some demanded power. Some asked for help, and others just listened. Admiral Reyna Malik stood at the edge of the solar map, watching a dozen new alliance groups form in real time. She turned to Elias Reed and asked what had been troubling her for days. "We broke the chains, Elias, but what if? Some want them back." He didn't smile. "Then we remind them, the word is not a weapon, it's a flame. You don't point it at people, you light the way." But not everyone agreed. Far from Earth, in the ruined sectors near the core, former council generals had vanished into deep space. Some believed they were regrouping, building something new, something worse. A few rebel cells had also turned dark groups who now saw Earth not as a liberator, but as a threat. They feared Earth's voice would grow too loud. Humanity would become the new council. One faction, known only as the Quiet Path, began sabotaging free Accord installations. They left behind graffiti and alien symbols that translated to a single, chilling message: silence was better. The galaxy had been set free, but freedom without guidance was dangerous. The flame could light cities, could also burn them down too. Keep the flame alive. Earth launched its most ambitious mission yet, the Vox Project, a ship like no other, floating station, half machine, half organic, able to grow with every new species it met. It wasn't built to fight, it was built to listen, to carry voices, to spread the word not as a command, but as a story. Myra became its first commander. She named the ship Torch, and on its hull, in glowing gold letters, a single sentence: "We are not your rulers. We are your echo." Torch traveled to old war zones, to forgotten moons, to newborn colonies. It recorded songs in alien languages, it helped forge new treaties, and it didn't bring orders, it brought choices. And on every world it visited, people began speaking again, not because Earth told them to, but because they remembered how. Meanwhile, aboard the Resolute, now serving as Earth's diplomatic flagship, Reyna and Elias prepared for the first interstellar voice. Samita, gathering of all species who had broken free from council rule. It would be messy. There would be arguments, cultural clashes, even threats. But Reyna knew this was what freedom looked like, and Elias knew exactly how to begin it. He stood before the assembly. Thousands of beings of flesh, of crystal, of energy, of sound watched silently, and he said, "We are not here to build another council. We are here to unlearn what the council taught us. That silence is order, that control is safety, that obedience is peace." They were wrong. Real peace is born in chaos, in disagreement, in voices that don't match. Real peace begins with a word. He didn't need to say it. They already knew. But still, from every seat, every species, in every form, the word came. No, not in anger, not in war, but in unity. A billion flames, lighting together, not to destroy, to warm the galaxy again. That was how it began. Not with ships, not with bombs, but with a word. It became a flame, that became a beacon, that became a future. The war was history. The storm was memory. But the word remained. It echoed not in silence, but in song, the sound of billions of voices choosing their own futures. No longer bound, no longer afraid. Across the stars, something new had taken root. Not an empire, not an alliance, not a council, but a promise that no world, no species, no voice would be forced to kneel again, and that all of them together had earned the right to choose. 1 year after the fall of the council, celebration was held on Earth, not to mark a victory, but to honor a moment. The moment the galaxy remembered it had a voice. The gathering took place not in orbit, not on a capital station, but in an open field beneath Earth's sky yonder. Real clouds. On real grass. Beings from more than 70 species attended. Some arrived by ship. Others projected themselves through light, sound, or quantum presence. A few, like the gaseous, Sara simply drifted in glass chambers filled with starlight. At the center of the field stood a quiet figure, Elias Reed. He wore no uniform, no weapons, just a simple patch on his jacket. Speak free, Mars stood. Beside him, her ship, torch, hovered above the clouds ready to carry the next message, the next voice, the next call for help. And Admiral Reyna Malik watched from a distance, knowing the galaxy wasn't finished. That danger still lurked in the dark. That silence would one day rise again, but not today. Today was for the flame. Elias stepped forward to speak, not as a leader, not as a savior, but as a man who had once said no and watched the stars catch fire. He looked across the crowd, across the worlds, and said, "We didn't win by building something bigger. We won by breaking something smaller. Inside ourselves, fear, silence, obedience. The council didn't fall because we outgunned them. They fell because we chose. Not once. Every day. In every system. On every world. And now we keep choosing." He paused, then pointed to the sky, where dozens of new colonies had begun to shine like stars. "This is not the end of the story. This is chapter 1 of the galaxy we choose together. It won't be easy. We will argue. We will fail. We will fight again. But we will do it as beings with voices, with fire, and with one word that still binds us all." He held up his hand, and from the field, from the ships, from every species, the word came. No. Followed by something new, another word. One the council had feared even more. Yes. Yes to unity. Yes to choice. Yes to difference. Yes to the galaxy they would now build dash together in the months that followed. History changed. The old maps were burned. The old names erased. What rose in their place wasn't an empire or a law but a living. A shifting network of voices, a system that didn't rule but listened. A place where every species had not a seat but a stage. Torch became a permanent ship city. Always moving, always recording. Its databanks became the new library of the stars, filled not with rules, but with stories. Even some council species, once feared, joined the new order not because they were forced, but because they had learned from Earth, from each other. From the flame, years later, on the edge of the former core, a child asked her elder a simple question. Why did the galaxy change? And the elder smiled and said, because someone said a word no one had dared speak for 5,000 years. And when they did, we remembered we were alive. The child blinked. What was the word? The elder leaned close and whispered, no, and gently with hope. And then came yes. Because in the end, it wasn't the weapons, it wasn't the ships, it wasn't even the war. It was the voice, the right to choose, the fire that would never go out. The council had demanded obedience. They got a galaxy on fire with freedom. And Earth's, the small blue world that had once been silent, had lit the match.